Hey, it's Will from Wilburforce, and today we're going to be talking about how to improve your shooting off barricade. Positional shooting is one of the biggest things that can help you hunting, precision shooting, if you're target shooting. Even if you're shooting off a bench, it can make you realize little things about yourself that you never realized that you did, that you can change to help you achieve impacts at greater distances, tighter groups, at closer distances, like being able to hit long shots on animals that you never thought you'd be able to hit a couple of years ago, like just with a little bit of practice. So I'm going to go over some tips today. One being how to use your bone structure of your body that a lot of people don't get. Another one is using bags. Doesn't matter what you're shooting off of, bags are a really big help. And then the third one is how to position yourself to handle the recoil of a rifle. So yeah, let's get into it. So one of the biggest things you can do with your gun, besides your trigger pull, your length of pull, how you acquire a target with your scope, is to use bags. Now what bags do is they make the gun sit comfortably on a barricade that was otherwise flat. Because if I try to put the flat bottom of this Oryx chassis onto a 2x4, it's just going to sit there and it's just going to go and rock. If I take a bag, when I set it in there, it provides a soft surface for the rifle to sit in, while at the same time helping to take out that rock. Also, bags kind of protect the finish on your gun a little bit too. So one of the biggest things you can do when you have using any type of bag, when you put it on the barricade, just slap it. When you slap it, it makes all the little bead fillers, however it's filled, conform to what you put it on, in this case a sawhorse. And so now when I want to pick it up, I can't just go like this. I got to actually open it up. Mind you, this one's designed to clamp around it. But if I do this one here, I can just pick it up off. So when you put a bag on, slap it. Now that's for using it as a front bag. If you're using it as a rear bag, one of the biggest things you can do is take and... Now that's if you're using it as a front bag. If you're using it as a rear bag, one of the biggest things you can do, if you're on a bipod, is take this bag and squeeze it. And what that does is, as your rifle sits in it, it brings it up and down just a little bit, just enough so you can get onto your targets. Something that a lot of people do that I haven't personally invested in is Area 419 does it. There's other companies I'm sure that do it. They have a ARCA attachment so that the bag sits on the bottom of the gun, and it's always like this. So that whenever you just put your gun down onto something, it's got a bag already there. And all you have to worry about is your rear bag or whatever you're trying to use. They do just add a lot instead of a bipod. I'm a personal fan of a bipod just because it gives you 2 points of contact instead of one. But it comes down to personal preference and what fits you. The next biggest thing you can do is use bone structure when you're shooting. A lot of people try to rely on the muscles of their body to hold a rifle. So when I'm holding a rifle like this, my arms are all the way from my body. The muscle has to carry the weight from here, through my elbow, back to my shoulder, and then down through. If I do this, weight goes from here directly into my main body where my legs can support it. Same thing if you're kneeling. You can rest your elbow on top of your knee. I can't see that. You can rest your elbow on top of your knee, and your back end just sits there steady. Now, what a lot of people do, because their body proportions don't match, they're too short like me, is they'll use what they call a pump pillow. It's a big 16-inch cube bag that takes the weight from their elbow clear down to their knee, without having to be all like hunched up. Or depending on what barricade or object you're shooting off of, you could also, you could also have to worry about being stretched out, like you're shooting from your shoulders, but your knee is hunched up and you can't reach it. What a pillow bag does in that case is make it so that you can carry that weight down. So the third thing that you can do when you're shooting is position your body to minimize recoil. Now, it's not something that a lot of people think about, but controlling your recoil can affect follow-up shots, or seeing your splash of the impact or miss, judging where you need to adjust for your next shot. So one of the biggest things is to line your gun up. So one of the biggest things when you're doing this is to make sure that your body is in a straight line with your gun. You don't want the gun to be tipped off to the side, because when that recoil impulse happens, it's going to push you sideways. If the gun's directly in front of you, it's just going to push your entire body back, but you still maintain your sight picture. You're still able to easily reset, just push the gun forward a little bit. One of the biggest things when you're shooting in a non-standing position, if you're on your knees or prone, is to take your foot and tip it out like this on both sides. Therefore you have a lot more contact area than this, because your toes just dig, but when you're like this, you can't really, you can push in with your toes and hold yourself there. Doesn't matter if you're on your knees or if you're prone. Another thing you can do is use the barricade to help you minimize your recoil. Now if you're shooting off of this barricade, you can, and it weighs enough, that's always the caveat here, is if the barricade weighs enough, because this might weigh 10 pounds or less. If it weighs like 10 pounds, you're not going to be able to use it to really minimize your recoil. But on a heavier barricade, you can just hold onto the barricade, sort of incorporate into your grip, so that when the rifle pushes you back, you pull the entire barricade with you. But if the barricade doesn't move, then you don't move, and the recoil is just absorbed. You might take a little bit more of a pounding, but if you hit the target, that's what matters. Another big thing when you're using bags is to have a barricade stop. Barricade stop, and the name implies you're pushing against the barricade, but that's not always the best, because obviously you're not in a bag, your gun rocks. When you put a bag down, you can run that barricade stop into it and push against your barricade. So you push against the barricade and you're locked in place. It helps you to control the recoil impulse, and it also helps you control actual recoil on any rifle. Another thing, when you're setting up a rifle, is your balance point of your rifle. Now, in the PRS world, this is kind of important because you want your rifle to balance. You don't want the rifle to balance too heavy to the rear or too heavy to the front. You want the balance point to be right where you're going to be putting it, like most likely in front of your barricade stop or the center of your action. So this one here sits right in the center of the action. Now where you preferably want to have this is right here. So right where the barricade stop is, that's where you'd want it. I mean, if I could have the barricade stop back further, I would. But one thing you can do is use lead weights, depending on your chassis or stock system. Another thing you can do is have a longer barrel, which would... So anyway, I gotta go. It's starting to rain. New Brunswick weather sucks. What can I say? Anyway, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.